so let's talk about a different one now, because naturally folks are, okay, guys, I get it. You've talked about factor investing. And I get it that you talked about dividend investing, but I'm well-read. And I exist out there on the forums, and I've heard about a thing I think is a great solution for me. And I want to know, what are your takes on this thing that was popularized in the Boglehead Forum called the 3-fund portfolio? And quite simply, a 3-fund portfolio is typically comprised of a domestic total market fund, an international total market fund, and a bond total market fund. 3 broad asset categories. You buy different proportions based on where you are, set it and forget it, and that's what you do. What do you think about the 3-fund portfolio?
What's interesting is this is kind of like lazy investing.
Yep.
And we've done shows called Lazy Investors Win and so forth. So once again, we're not against this strategy either. I do think, though, that this is bumping right into when we talk about we love index funds. And you mentioned this is kind of originated from Bogleheads, which is synonymous with Vanguard investments. People will get so excited about this, but there's still a lot of things that are missing on this, Bo, is because because you just gave out 3 things. You gave out domestic, you gave out international, and you gave out bond.
Yep.
When I was doing research for today's show, it cracked me up because I have not seen somebody trying to say this is what you ought to use. On one of the blogs, somebody was trying to give insight on how you figure out how much bonds you should have in your portfolio. And they brought up the age, way where you can, the older you get, obviously, the more bonds you're going to have. But it still could way overstate how much bonds you have. And it's the complexity of how much large cap, how much international, how much bonds. There's still a lot of question marks about that. This is simple, but it doesn't actually help you with the complete execution because you have to figure out how much you're going to allocate to these 3 low-cost investments.
That's exactly right. We love that a 3-fund portfolio in its simple construction is low cost. Because they're index funds, it can likely be super tax efficient, although not the most tax efficient. I'd argue there are other more tax efficient ways to do that than the 3-fund. And it doesn't involve stock picking. You're not having to go out there and pick winners and losers if you are doing index investing. However, you still have to make some decisions. When it comes to the 3-fund portfolio, you have to decide, okay, how much do I like fixed income? How much do I like total domestic? How much do I like total international? And psychologically, you have to have the staying power. If you come through a decade where maybe international underperformed or it wasn't tough, how do you fight the emotion of saying, oh man, that one's been a dog, I'm going to get out of that? And then do you not just find yourself in the place where now you're just trying to time it? Okay, well, what's going to be the hot asset class for the next year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and which one should I avoid? And you start squeezing the balloon inappropriately. That's why we think rather than the 3-fund portfolio, we think there's a better solution for folks that are in that stage of their investing career.
Yeah, I mean, well, it gets back to, you've heard us. I mean, because we go through the progression when we love index investing because it's low cost, it's tax efficient, there's a lot to be cheered on, and then, but we know that only gives you the what do you go out there and look at? You look at index funds, but then how much do you buy each thing? And you're like, well, that depends upon your age. That depends upon your goals. There's so many risk factors that go into it. So when target retirement funds came on the scene, because when I hear about the 3-fund portfolio, Fidelity forever had because I loved index investing, and then Fidelity had the Forum 1 index.
That's right.
That was like, because this is before target retirement funds kind of started getting traction. And I sent a lot of people to that type of simple investment, but the problem is it didn't rebalance. It didn't give any difference between a 25-year-old who bought it versus a 48-year-old who bought it. And then here comes index target retirement funds. Now, all you trolls, I said index target retirement funds because I still want to get that tax efficiency. I want to get that low cost, but I love the simplicity of just saying, how much can you save? When do you need it? And then this does everything else for you, because we all know that your investment path is going to change. When you're 25, your needs are different than when you're 60. And that's what we're talking about when we say that difference exists, is what's called your glide path. That's right. And Bo, that talk about, we put up a slide. This is from Schwab, but this does exactly what what I just explained.
Yeah, rather than you having to make the allocation decisions, a really good target retirement index fund will make the allocation decisions for you, really aggressive while you're young, and then it'll get naturally more conservative as you age. Now, we get people all the time that get all caught up in this, I don't like the target retirement funds, I don't like the target index funds. This is not supposed to be your end-all be-all investment solution. This is supposed to be your start. We recommend utilizing these types of investments until your portfolio hits critical mass. When your portfolio hits critical mass, rather than a generalized solution, that's what we consider this. This is a general solution for a general population of people that are starting to invest. Once it hits critical mass, we think it makes sense to move to a specialized solution, a portfolio designed for you, for your circumstance. It takes into account your risk tolerance, your risk capacity, your time horizon, your account structure, your savings goals, all of the unique factors that pertain to you specifically. But until you get to that point, we think your number one focus should be, how much can I save? How can I put more dollars in? How can I get my money working? And ignore the noise that doesn't matter at that part of your journey.
Well, yeah, because what's going to create the easiest habit for you, or the simple habit, is something that makes inevitable wealth, and it makes it easy, it makes it attainable. And that's what I do like about index target retirement funds, is that you take away so much of the decision making to where you now focus on, how can I save more and how can I save faster to get through this get wealthy phase? Because let's face it, you will get more complicated, because we've talked about this, because Bo talked about, I was bragging about tax efficiency. Index funds, without a doubt, are very tax efficient, but you will get a point where you get so successful that now, instead of having all that money paid equally, both in your retirement accounts, your Roth accounts, as well as in your taxable accounts, you'll say, hey, let's focus on tax allocation. Let's put our growth assets in the Roth. Let's put in our ordinary income assets into the tax deferred, retirement accounts. And then let's put the things that we need liquidity, and as well as other tax favorite things, into that after tax. That's part of the complexity, as well as asking some of those sweeteners like real estate and other diversifiers that you'll need. There's a time and a place. And that's the big thing I want people to focus on when we talk about, I don't have a problem with 3-fund investing. I have a problem with you setting it, forgetting it, and then it not having a process for correcting, rebalancing, or adjusting to your changing needs. That's where things can get a little out of whack very quickly.
Yeah, I think when it comes to investing, the very first thing that we want you to recognize is, where am I in my investing life cycle? Am I at the place where the decisions I'm making are warranted based on my financial situation, or am I getting too far out ahead of myself, right? Should I just be focusing on my savings rate and not really worried about my rate of return? Because there's a season in your accumulation journey where that's the case. When you pass that case, when you pass that point, the case that we're making is all of these different types of investing, whether it be a simplified asset allocation, or whether it be factor investing, or whether it be dividend investing, those are all tools in your tool belt, but not the solution in and of themselves. And if someone comes to you and says, hey, you know what? This is the way that you need to invest, and this is the way that you need to make money, and this is the only path to financial independence, my spidey sense would start going off. And I would start thinking through some of the reasons we've laid out why maybe these investment strategies aren't the end-all be-all that should command your dollars.